In 2022, NASA launched the Artemis 1 mission. No crew, one rocket, one flight. The bill, $4.1 billion. For context, that is more than the entire annual GDP of some countries for one rocket that flew once with nobody on board. At roughly the same time, SpaceX was flying Falcon 9 rockets at $67 million per launch and building a rocket, Starship, that they say will eventually fly for $10 million. That is a 400 times difference in cost between SLS and Starship's target price. 400 times. Now, the easy thing to do with that number is to get angry about it, to turn it into a story about government waste versus private innovation and call it a day. We are not going to do that, because the real story, why the gap exists, where it comes from, and whether it was inevitable, is significantly more interesting than the outrage version. And the counterfactual question at the end of this video, what if NASA had built Starship instead of SLS, has an answer that surprises most people, including me when I first worked through it. To understand the cost gap, you have to understand what SLS actually is, not what NASA says it is, what it actually is. SLS, the Space Launch System, is not a new rocket. It is a political instrument that happens to produce thrust. That sounds harsh. Let me be specific about why it is accurate. When the shuttle program ended in 2011, NASA had tens of thousands of employees, hundreds of contractors, and decades of institutional infrastructure built around shuttle hardware. The main engines, the solid rocket boosters, the manufacturing facilities, the supply chains, all of it. When Congress mandated that NASA build a new heavy-lift rocket for the moon, it simultaneously mandated, not suggested, mandated that NASA use existing shuttle-derived components wherever possible. The stated reason was cost savings and schedule compression. The actual reason was that the senators and representatives whose states contained shuttle contractors did not want those contractors to lose their government revenue. This is not a conspiracy theory. The legislation is public. Senator Richard Shelby of Alabama, whose state contains Marshall Space Flight Center and its associated contractors, was instrumental in writing the authorization. Aerojet Rocketdyne, which manufactures the RS-25 engines that power SLS, is headquartered in Alabama. The result of building a rocket around existing contractors rather than around optimal engineering is a vehicle that costs what the contractors need to charge, not what the engineering requires. The RS-25 engine is perhaps the clearest example. It is a magnificent piece of engineering. It is also 30 years old. During the shuttle program, each RS-25 was refurbished and reused across multiple flights, which made its cost per flight manageable. For SLS, NASA cannot afford to develop a reusable version, so each RS-25, worth an estimated $146 million, is expended, thrown into the ocean, after one use. Starship's Raptor engine costs an estimated $1 million to produce. SLS uses 4 RS-25s per flight. That is $584 million in engines alone, before you count the solid rocket boosters, the core stage, the upper stage, the ground systems, and the workforce. This is not waste in the casual sense of government inefficiency. It is the structural consequence of designing a rocket around a political requirement to preserve existing jobs rather than around an engineering requirement to minimize cost. Starship's path to $10 million per launch is built on 3 things that SLS structurally cannot do. The first is full reusability. Both the ship and the Super Heavy booster are designed to fly, land, and fly again. If Starship achieves a 1,000-flight reuse target, Musk's stated goal, the manufacturing cost of the vehicle is divided across 1,000 missions. The vehicle cost per flight approaches $30,000 to $50,000. Compare that to SLS, where the entire vehicle, engines, boosters, core stage, is destroyed on every launch. The second is vertical integration. SpaceX designs the engines, the vehicle, the ground systems, the launch infrastructure, and the software. When something needs to change, one organization makes the decision and implements it. SLS has prime contractors, subcontractors, sub-subcontractors, and a NASA oversight layer that must review and approve decisions at every tier. A design change that SpaceX implements in weeks takes years inside the SLS contractor structure, and each year of program schedule costs NASA approximately $2 billion in fixed overhead. The third is manufacturing philosophy. SpaceX builds Raptor engines like a factory builds car engines, standardized, serial, iterative, each unit cheaper than the last as the manufacturing process improves. The target is hundreds of Raptors per year. At that volume, the manufacturing learning curve drives costs down continuously. RS-25 engines are built like sculptures. Each one is a bespoke artifact assembled by specialist hands in a protected process that has not fundamentally changed in 30 years. You cannot drive a learning curve on a manufacturing process that produces 4 units per year. Taken together, expendable vehicle, fragmented contractor structure, artisanal manufacturing, SLS's cost is not an anomaly. It is the predictable output of its design constraints, and those design constraints were political, not engineering. Now the question that most coverage stops short of asking: what if NASA had built Starship? Not contracted SpaceX to build it, not partnered with SpaceX. What if NASA, with NASA's budget and NASA's workforce and NASA's processes, had attempted to build a fully reusable super heavy-lift vehicle from scratch in 2010, the year SLS began development? The honest answer is that it would not have looked like Starship, it would not have cost what Starship costs, and it almost certainly would not fly today. Here's why. SpaceX built Starship through a process called iterative development. Build a prototype, fly it, analyze the failure, redesign, fly again. The Starhopper, the SN series, the integrated flight tests. Each failure was data. Each data point was incorporated into the next design within weeks. NASA's development process is requirements-driven. Before a component can be designed, the requirements for that component must be documented, reviewed, approved, and frozen. Before a test can be conducted, a test plan must be written, reviewed, approved, and signed. Before a failure can be incorporated into a redesign, the failure must be investigated, documented, and formally closed. This process exists for reasons. Human spaceflight is unforgiving. The Challenger disaster and the Columbia disaster both involved organizations that deviated from rigorous process. The requirements-driven approach is NASA's institutional response to those tragedies, but it makes iterative development structurally impossible. The Raptor engine went from first design to first test fire in approximately 2 years. Developing a comparable engine inside NASA's process with the required documentation, safety reviews, independent verification, and contractor oversight takes between 7 and 12 years. That is not speculation. That is the RS-25's actual development timeline. A NASA-built Starship starting in 2010 would today be somewhere between a preliminary design review and a first prototype. It would have cost somewhere between $30 to $50 billion, and it would not have flown. This is not a criticism of NASA. It is a description of what happens when you apply an organization's process to a task that requires a different process. The counterfactual reveals something important. Starship's cost is not primarily a function of SpaceX's engineering brilliance. It is primarily a function of SpaceX's development process, which is only possible because SpaceX accepts a rate of failure and public embarrassment that a government agency cannot politically sustain. When Starship explodes, SpaceX calls it a learning opportunity and schedules the next test. When a NASA vehicle fails, there's a congressional hearing. Those are not equivalent constraints, and they produce wildly different cost structures. There's one more layer to this that I want to name clearly because it changes how you should think about the 400 times difference. The gap between SLS and Starship is not evidence that government cannot build rockets. It is evidence that government cannot build rockets using a commercial development process. Those are different claims. NASA built Saturn V, the most capable rocket in human history for its era, on budget, on schedule, and with a flight record that has never been matched for a vehicle of its class. What changed between Saturn V and SLS was not NASA's engineering capability. What changed was the political environment in which NASA operates, the number of congressional stakeholders, the number of protected contractors, the number of oversight layers, and the tolerance for public failure. Saturn V was built during a Cold War space race in which the political will to absorb cost overruns and accept failures existed at the presidential level. That political environment produced a vehicle that cost approximately $180 billion in today's money, over the full Apollo program.
SLS is being built in a peacetime budget environment where every cost overrun generates a hearing and every schedule delay generates a news cycle. That political environment produces a different kind of rocket, a slower, more expensive, politically durable rocket, because durability is what the environment selects for. Starship exists outside that environment, which is the only reason it could be built the way it was built. The 400 times cost difference is real, but its root cause is not that SpaceX engineers are 400 times smarter than NASA engineers. Its root cause is that SpaceX engineers are allowed to be wrong in public, and NASA's engineers are not. 3 things to carry out of this video. First, the SLS cost is not waste in the casual sense. It is the structural output of a set of political constraints that were written into the program from the beginning. You cannot build a cheap rocket when the law requires you to use expensive components to protect existing jobs. The engineers at NASA and Boeing who built SLS are not incompetent. They are operating inside a system that optimizes for political survival, not engineering efficiency. Those are different objectives and they produce different rockets. Second, the counterfactual reveals that Starship's real competitive advantage is process, not engineering. A requirements-driven NASA could not build Starship, not because NASA lacks the engineering knowledge, but because NASA's process cannot accommodate the failure rate that iterative development requires. Starship is cheap because SpaceX is allowed to fail publicly and quickly. That tolerance for failure is the asset. The engineering is the consequence. Third, the 400 times cost gap is only partly about the present. It is mostly about the future. SLS will never get cheaper. Its cost structure is fixed by contracts, by workforce requirements, and by political commitments that cannot be unwound without destroying the political coalition that funds the program. Starship's costs will fall with every flight, every reuse, every improvement to the manufacturing process. The gap that is 400 times today will be larger in 10 years, not because SLS gets more expensive, though it will, but because Starship gets cheaper. That asymmetry is the story, not the number. If this kind of analysis is what you are looking for, not the angry version and not the cheerleading version, just the accurate version, subscribe. Next week, we go after one of the most consequential questions in the entire Starship program. Not the engineering, the money. Specifically, how much has SpaceX actually spent building Starship, and where did the money come from? The published number and the evidence do not agree. Subscribe. I will see you then. One more thing. SpaceX says Starship cost $3 billion to develop. Elon Musk has said this publicly, multiple times, on record. I spent time tracing that figure. Facility construction at Boca Chica, headcount growth over the development period, supplier contracts, NASA's HLS payments. The traceable evidence points to a number that is probably closer to double. SpaceX is a private company. They do not publish audited development accounts, so the $3 billion figure that appears everywhere, in journalism, in analysis, in other videos, ultimately traces to SpaceX telling you it is $3 billion. Next week, we look at what the evidence actually suggests. It is an interesting discrepancy.